What was that other guy that showed up in court whose name was like? It was like Cockmaster 5000 or something. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit. Do you think you can just come into this court with that username, which is like an insane sentence by itself? You know?
Yeah, it's a strange world we're in now.
Yeah.
People are going to be in legal issues in court under their YouTube monikers.
Username. I love it. If you would have told me this whenever I was a kid, I'd have been like, yes, take me to the future. I want to see this because I want to see how my parents deal with this.
This is going to be our last episode. And Spud, how about you take the reins? How about you take the intro?
It's a banger.
Yeah? I'll count you down.
Welcome to the countdown from Under the Mayor.
Well, okay, I guess I won't. I guess I won't count you down. Well, there's the intro. We already got the intro now.
This is the Unofficial Doom Podcast. The last one until we may decide to do another. But for now, the last one. Join with us, David Levy.
Hello.
And Andrew Hulshult.
Hello.
As it's the Unofficial Doomcast, it would be appropriate to have two of the gentlemen that are responsible for some of those banging tunes in the DLC of Doom Eternal.
Amen.
Welcome.
And hosting, obviously, Under the Mayor, myself, the Spot Hunter, and Ketchup.
How are you guys doing? It's been a couple months since we talked, since December.
Yeah, it's nice to do this not struggling with UK transport and being on my mobile phone.
Yeah.
We're getting bigger over here, you know, on the rise.
Yeah. Yeah, so this might be this is the last episode of the Doom Eternal podcast, but for those of you who enjoy the show or just enjoy listening to us talk about whatever, we have talked about continuing forward eventually under maybe some kind of rebrand and maybe just kind of like talking about shooters in general. You know, I think after 2 years of Doom Eternal, branching out into some other areas and would give us more things to talk about in the, you know, however many years to come we want to do this, and we can start bringing on some other people from some other scenes. I think it could be pretty fun. We don't have any official plan, but we've talked about it. So don't worry, you know, you won't be missing us for long. We'll be back.
Yeah, I think it very much came from, we've talked about so much stuff within, you know, Doom Eternal in particular. There's always more to talk about by all means, but it's things like, for me, you know, we just had the release of like Shadow Warrior 3, and it's like,
yeah,
this game's actually pretty sick, and I think we'd all have a lot to say about it. And you know, if there is a new game that comes out and it's worth talking about and sitting and having a chit chat, then I think it'd be nice to have the opportunity to do so. You know, because there's always extra FPS games coming out. It's always a nice time to sit here and chat about it. But today in particular, I've been really excited for this one, very much so, because you know, music is such a
Why are you so excited about it?
I am. No. Let me tell you.
Still me upset.
I mean, look, music has been such a instrumental, well, no pun intended, part of that was not even, I wasn't even planned, but I'll take it, full credit. It's been such a huge part of Doom, you know, since day one, you know, back in the 90s, really. And very much so has continued to be the case. I would dare say taken to the next level where, you know, there's this entirely new generation of players and fans that can listen to all the new soundtracks that come out, and it's like, holy shit, this music's wicked. And it's a huge part of the game. It's like built into the game to get you to be in that zone, that Doom zone, to get you to want to play more. And it adds to the, I think, the ferocity of the game and the general mood, the whole thing. And obviously these two fine gentlemen that are here right now are a major part of that in our current times. So been really excited for this episode, huge fan of the soundtrack, and happy to jump in and start having a chit chat, Mayo.
Oh, we're happy to be here. And isn't it cool though that this is that the music is such a big part of the game, and it's almost like a part of the mechanics of the game. It's not an afterthought. In a lot of games, it seems like the music is kind of an afterthought, and here it's such a massive part of the game. Should take a second to recognize that.
Very prime placement.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's one of the games I know, one of the few games I know where like I can just like at any time just start humming a melody, and not just like one or two. That's the thing. A lot of games I can hum one or two melodies. I've put in hundreds of hours into Streets of Rage 4 over the past year or so, and I fucking love the music, but I like not that many tunes come to my head. But with the Doom games. With your work and Gordon's work, it's just like so many melodies come to my head. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, like Bobby's the same way.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
Growing up, I was like, you know, still to this day, if somebody just starts going, dun, 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 I'm like, oh yeah, and I was like, I'll just join in. I'm like, there's so many fucking memorable songs.
Yeah. That fucking arch file map.
Oh yeah.
Man, no, the riff from the Ancient Gods soundtracks that always gets in my head is the Atlantica theme where it starts going bado 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 ba bado 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 ba. Like, man, like when that hits, I was just like, oh my god, let's go.
Mine's Andrew's work on Blood Swamps. That shit just randomly kind of pops in my head. It's that fucking, always puts a smile on my face. I remember the first time he sent me the clip of it when we were working. I'm like, oh my fucking god, I need to step my shit up. Like, this is unbelievable. You sent me just like the stuff on it. Like, well, we have all those pitch bend stuff, like the slides, whatever it was.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, yeah, because we work in like tiny little clips, and you know, like the music for the game is kind of written in a modular fashion.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys want to get into all that right now.
We're ready to get into all of it, I think.
Oh,
absolutely.
All right, I'll start, and Andrew can get in there too, and
please do
chime in. I'm still trying to wake up my brain here. It's a little early, but yeah. So it's like we work in like there's like 3 levels of like quote unquote like intensities for the music in every given map. There's just ambient music, and then there's light combat and heavy combat, and just for the sake of example, like each intensity level will have like its own track in a way, and each track will be, let's say, about 5 minutes long or so, and that 5 minutes of music is going to have to be chopped up to again, for the sake of example here, let's say like a minute per piece of music, and then or per section or whatnot, and then all those little pieces, they have to work in a modular fashion where, say, 1 through 5, like piece number 1 needs to work at the end of number 3, and the beginning of number 3 needs to work at the end of number 5, and vice versa. So everything gets shuffled by the game engine, and it all needs to work and make sense and sound like a coherent track. That way, when you play the game, it never sounds the same. No, it's not just writing a song that always plays from beginning to end the same way. So for me, that was a challenge to write a track like that. I've never done that before, and yeah, so you do that through all the different intensity levels. And I remember that Andrew sent me a couple of tiny little clips. It was like 40 seconds, just like the end of one of the pieces from Blood Swamps. And man, fucking like my jaw dropped. It was so fucking good.
It's just, you know, here, this is a very light riff for you. Yeah. There's nothing heavy about it.
Right. He's like, what do you think of this? I'm like, what?
I'm with you though, Mayo. I really dig I really dig his Atlantica stuff. I've told him that for.
It's probably my favorite track
years
on all the DLC music. There's just something brutal about it. There's like I don't know how much Spud and Ketchup are into metal. I'm not the biggest metal guy, and so for me. What appeals to me more in your guys' work is when things go for a little more like kind of like pop simplicity, And so
sound design kind of base.
Exactly.
Kind of grounded down to where both of them work together, like the metal and the synth stuff work together really well.
Yeah, I can appreciate an awesome complex riff, but when that one section comes in of the bado 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 ba, like it's melodic and catchy, but it also feels like you're punching someone with like over and over in the face. With no complexity. You're just like da 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 da.
I mean,
it
honestly,
just works.
that can be honestly the in my opinion, I have no music degree by any means. I'm sitting there with two.
Hey, me neither.
Me either. It's all good. Yeah, no worries.
But generally, like, I always thought, like, I am a rather massive metalhead, through and through for as long as I can remember, and there are often like really effective simplicities in a lot of bands and a lot of songs, and they often become the most memorable parts because even if it's loud, even if it's aggressive and almost violent sounding, there's always melody in there, always, even in vocals. People always, maybe it's not everyone's cup of tea, the whole kind of growling, screaming, the whole shebang, but those that really have listened to that genre for a long time, you're able to find the melody in it. Like, I'm a huge fan of some of the older bands, like Fear Factory is one of my favorite bands out there. Like, I love American.
Zara's amazing guitar player.
Yeah, and the absolute marriage between the
Him
guitars
and the drummer
and the bass. So they constantly they would constantly work on the drums and the double bass pedals. That was always like how they would. I'm pretty sure that's how they constructed a lot of their riffs. Was
that band
whatever
changed. Yeah, they changed how metal production was done, and then Pantera took it a step further. Like Fear Factory,
just music.
Yeah, I know. I know. Fear Factory and Pantera changes all that, and it's actually probably closer to what you hear today. But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to derail there.
No, we're not derailed at all.
I'm happy to let you keep going. Because my first discovery when I was younger was fun fact for anyone that gives a shit, but Mortal Kombat, the first movie, the Johnny Cage versus Scorpion fight, there's an instrumental cut of Zero Signal, which is a Fear Factory song.
Oh, okay.
And if you liked the song, or that soundtrack, you would go and listen to the entire Demanufacture album from Fear Factory, and then you just find really banger after banger. And that's kind of a lot of people back in the day, that was their introduction to like industrial metal,
They had stuff on Carmageddon as well, didn't they?
Oh my God, you remember that game?
Yeah, I love Carmageddon.
They had
the shit out of that thing.
They had instrumental versions of Demanufacture. I think actually it might have been Zero Signal as well. I'm trying to remember the other ham. I think maybe Body Hammer. I think Body Hammer was the other one. That was a instrumental only, and it still fit. Fit like a glove. They were able to get that kind of stuff, but. That's what I always hugely connected. I think a lot of metal fans connected with the Doom soundtracks because it was really the core of what made metal melodic. We're all talking about those memorable riffs, those memorable tracks, because it's very much not just background noise. There was so much thought put into it across all of Doom Eternal's music, pre-DLC and DLC itself. And with you folks putting together what you're able to, it really helps a lot of us, I think, reconnect with those like older days of the metal that we really enjoyed listening to back in the day, because there's a real similar kind of spirit to that. It's kind of hard to pinpoint, but I'm sure someone listening is like, yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's like
one person.
It's hard to put into words sometimes.
It's like I mean, like metal music as a whole. Like, I mean, like I wouldn't say that's all Doom is, but it's real close. Like it's all built on aggression, right? Like there's big, thunderous, crazy sounding guitars that sound like not only are they being electrocuted, but they're on fire at the same time. Number one. But like the compositions, you guys are both right on that. Like whenever I was approaching it, and I'm sure David was probably the same way. It was, how do I make something as a bass line, like that's like a handful of notes on each one of these little pieces, like what David was talking about with an ambient, where it's like a minute, each piece is like a minute long, maybe like minute and a half, something like that, where it's something catchy, at the base of it, and then like some cool stuff sprinkled over top of it that still keeps it interesting as well. So it's not just this same riff.
It's not a filler.
Yeah, it's not just like the same riff for a minute and a half. You want something a little bit that shows up as time goes on, that maybe can then apex, like it feels like there's more tension driving as that piece of music goes on to the next piece of music, and like it's a really interesting way of designing a soundtrack, which thankfully I had been kind of familiar with it before with working on Proteus. They had
you guys worked like that too? It's the same system?
Yeah, we had a Medieval actually had kind of a same system. I mean, it's nowhere near as like, hey, we need these guitars, but it was like, hey, we need a couple different tracks here. But
was it being shuffled around randomly? Like, were you guys using Wise?
No, it's all done in Unreal for a Medieval, but I think they are using Wise and Proteus, if I remember correctly. But like basically just triggers are set up in the map where it's like, okay, engage LC, light combat, engage HC,
cool.
Fade back to ambient, that kind of stuff. But yeah, like condensing all that stuff down it's tough. And like taking it from, here's this amazing riff that's at 160 BPM, in 16th notes or 32nd notes. Yeah. How do I make this readable for somebody who gives no fucks about metal and like make it, something that's fun that even I think they can jam to?
Yeah.
You'll drive yourself crazy going over it.
Absolutely. And to me, like the hardest part was doing like the heavy combat stuff, and then making sure that it feels right when it goes back to the ambient right after, because you're done like with the big battle and whatnot, and now it switches back to ambient. And going from what he was saying, like whatever fucking 180 BPM back to like 130 or 100, it doesn't always work. Like for example, like with Amora, I always start with just the ambient stuff, and I wrote a good ambient track, and then went on and I did like the light combat and got a little more aggressive and more industrial, and then the heavy combat was super aggressive, and everything sounded fine up until I was done with the heavy combat. Like everything's been approved, and then Hugo and Chad and I were listening to everything and concluded that now, because the heavy combat was so fucking aggressive, that it made the light combat sound like a walk in the park. Like not light combat, sorry, but ambient. Like the ambient was now too slow. It was too ambient. So I had to go and rewrite that entire track, and kind of bring it up in intensity. So even the ambient music in Namora is a little a little more intense than the ambient music in Atlantic or anywhere else. So this kind of things, it's hard to foresee it. So there's so many factors. Pieces. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely,
it's insane.
Absolutely.
But I tell you what, folks, we are already deep diving into some super interesting discussion, and I am really excited to constantly hear more of this. I feel like already this is like my favorite. No disrespect to any of our previous guests by any means. I've loved every episode, but I feel like
screw them.
As such a wow. Who said that? Not me. But no, as such a huge music fan, this has already become my favorite episode to sit with. But so we're all talking about a lot of cool stuff, but I distinctly remember, Andrew, you and I were, shall we say, rather merry at a certain QuakeCon a few years ago.
That means drunk.
Yeah. We got drunk together at QuakeCon with a bunch of the New Classic lot. Shouts to New Classic by all means. But we had a bit of a chit chat about music, for lack of a better term. We were talking a lot, and I will always remember. I asked you, like, where did you start? How did you get from where you were to writing music for all kinds of games? And I always remember you having a really interesting answer of kind of where you came from and how you eventually started making music into games. And I feel like as we're here, this is podcast style, right? We're all sitting here and chatting about it. Let's talk to both Andrew and David, starting with Andrew.
No, Andrew, I don't even know the answer to that. I'm curious. I don't think we've ever talked about that.
Where did you start in music, and how did you become where you are now? Because I always remember it being a pretty cool story, man.
There's lots of things.
Hold on, let me take my pants off.
about me, David. What is? Oh my God, David.
Man, I was just putting mine on.
Wow. I hope I'm giving you the same answer that I gave then. If we'd had a handful of drinks. Basically, I was in a metal band in Dallas with some of my best friends for years, and we played together, and went every now and then, went to different states, had a great time, loved playing live, and at some point I saw that there was a remake happening, like somebody just in their bedroom remaking Duke Nukem 3D and Unreal Engine 3. And this is like halfway through Unreal Engine 3's life cycle, which I think is now, like, if you look back on it, it's like 12 years, which is insane.
Yeah.
But maybe longer. God,
is Mortal Kombat still using Unreal Engine 3? They might
I'm
be.
pretty sure it is. It's just it's a hybrid of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't know that until like a few months ago. I was like, what the hell? But anyways, so like I was just playing metal, and I'd always loved recording in my bedroom, right? Like ever since I could first pirate a digital audio software, which I think at the time was the very first Cakewalk. I've been like infatuated with how do I make my own records at home? like man, this is so cool. I want to be able to do this. So I would have like those little USB microphones and put them up next to my, or not USB, it was 1/8 inch at the time, and like hook them into my sound card and put it up next to my amp, and it sounded like
That's
shit.
funny. We have that in common. I've always done that too since I was like 15 years old, and I don't even know why. It's very strange.
Yeah. But like I was always infatuated with recording at home, and I saw that they were doing the whole, like, this guy was doing this whole Duke Nukem 3D remake thing in Unreal Engine, and I reached out, and I was like, hey, do you need any music? Because I really dug like the Duke games growing up, and I bet I could redo that theme, like not knowing anything. And he was like, yeah, if you want to give a crack at it. And like this was literally all on the Gearbox software forums.
How old were you?
I was 22 at the time, I think.
Okay.
Maybe I was 21. I think I've been now working professionally here for like 10 years. I think this is the 10-year anniversary.
Nice.
But like basically, like he just said, yeah, go ahead, and I rewrote the Duke 3D theme and shot it off to him, and he's like, yeah, cool, sounds great. And like, we started putting things together, and they got permission from Gearbox to release that thing. And then he was like, hey, he's like, I'm coming to Texas. We should hang out. Because I need to talk to Gearbox and make sure everything's okay. And for anybody that doesn't know, that's Frederick Schreiber. He's the gentleman who owns 3D Realms now. And basically, like we hung out at this little place called Houlihan's, and like we just kind of talked about what we wanted to do, and like it's like, yeah, I want to make music. He was like, well, I just want to develop games. And we had our $4 drinks that we had like 10 of them, and then he flew back home, and I went back home, and then Gearbox canceled that project, and we were like, oh, what a bummer. And after that, Apogee Software, which I had no idea was like still running around at the time, got a hold of us and was like, hey, we want you guys to reboot Rise of the Triad. And I hadn't heard that name in forever, and I remember playing that a ton growing up. I was like, whoa, somebody actually still has this IP and wants to reboot it? Like, awesome. And that's how I landed my first gig in that, was like just like a chance of a message through a forum, and like just talking to the right people. And that's literally, like, I feel like been this entire career is just networking and being able to go out, have dinner or drinks, just have a good time with somebody. And then once you become friends with somebody, you kind of start talking about creative. It's like the same thing as a band, in my opinion, because you can't write music with people that you just met off the street and it feel like it mean anything. I mean, maybe you could, I couldn't. And I feel like that's how game developers and game designers are as well. It's like, okay,
you gotta connect with them.
Yeah, let's connect first and talk, and then we'll we'll see if our art matches up basically on our ideas. But yeah, from Rise of the Triad, it just kind of it spun out of control, and I've like that was so cool. Like Rise of the Triad happened during a really dark period in my life personally, where I was going through a bunch, and I'll never forget walking into my very first QuakeCon in I think it was 2012, when Todd Hollins had announced for us, like that from the stage. It was the very first announcement of that QuakeCon. Like everybody showed up. It was the very first announcement that id made, was that Rise of the Triad was getting a reboot. And I'll never forget walking up to QuakeCon that year and how big of an impact it would have on me and my career and what I wanted to do and how I connected with fans. I was so used to live shows and crowds and vibing off of that, and like, you know, being a front man, like a singer for a band. That's my bread and butter. Like I want to get a reaction out of you, you know? And whenever I walked up to that QuakeCon, I was blown away with how many people were there and how many people like wanted to talk to you and wanted to meet you and wanted to like, hey, you know, just discuss games. I was like, this is incredible. Like, these are my people. Like, oh my gosh, where have these people been this entire time? I needed you like, you know, 10 years ago. And it just made this incredible impact where that feels like home for me, and still does. Like it's whenever I put a soundtrack out, if I can go to QuakeCon that year and get a gauge on people and just meet somebody new that I've never met and kind of be like, hey, what are you playing? You know, what are you listening to? That kind of stuff. That's where I get that. But yeah, like the very beginning of that is what sparked everything. Rise of the Triad made everything happen, and it's so crazy how it happened. And then that eventually turned into meeting Adam Pyle, working on Quake Champions, and then Chad Mossholder and Jason O'Connell, Mark Diaz and Hugo Martin, and
David Levy.
And David Levy.
Yeah, how did you guys get hooked up together? Did you guys know each other before working on Tag 1?
No, that was the first time we met each other, and I'll never forget that. I was like, I think we were both like, I don't know how I feel about working with someone else. Like, I kind of like to focus on the art just by yourself for the most part and see it all the way through. So whenever Chad Mossholder told us, hey, you're working with somebody else, I was like, oh man, really?
It's harder.
You know?
It's not.
Yeah.
It makes things more complicated. Sometimes it's good. You know, you get two brains on one piece of music, but a lot of times it's, especially with like really aggressive deadlines, I'm gonna end you on that. It's easier to just sit down and do your thing and see it through from beginning to end, and not having to wait on other people's input and their ideas, which sometimes are great, but it's just for the sake of time saving, it's easier to work alone.
Yeah,
especially when you're an artist, who usually, like, artists are renowned for sort of fighting themselves in their own creations. So now you sort of like, you know what I mean? Like, not competing in a like competitive sense, but creatively competing with each other in a sense, if you know what I mean? Like the ideas, they clash sometimes.
Yeah. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying a second ago, where it's like, you know, at first I was like, I don't know how I'm going to work with somebody else, because I don't know how I can trust somebody else. And all it took was one phone call where we exchanged back and forth some, you know, dark humor jokes. I was like, oh, okay, cool, this guy's on the same level, right on.
It got bad real fast, which is good.
Yeah. I was like, perfect. It's my sense of humor. Well, this will be fine. No worries.
Yeah, it's and it's always scary too, like going into a project like that, and not knowing the other person's personality in a way, like going off of what Andrew said. I've met quite a few people that just kind of just have a big ego on them, and that makes things very difficult when you got to work with them, you know, because you got to be a team player, and you really cannot have an ego when you work in this industry, in my opinion, because it just makes your life and everyone around you much more difficult.
Nightmare.
You know? And honestly, if you can't take any kind of criticism or any kind of feedback that's like negative feedback on your cues and on your music, then it's not fun. No one's going to want to work with you. And I was worried about that because I didn't know Andrew at all. I didn't know what he's like, what it's like to work with him. But like he said, like we talked within 5 minutes. My car, like, that's not going to be a problem. But it ended up like it wasn't even an option really, because we were kind of split up. There was so much work to be done in so little time that we each kind of did our own thing. And throughout the process, I was just riddled with anxiety. I don't know about you, Andrew. I think maybe a little bit too. But I remember that we
it's an
just,
understatement.
all right. But we're trying to play it cool. Although Andrew was my Valium pill, like I called him, throughout the process.
Yeah, he'd always give me
I was-
calls and be
I'm
like,
like, oh,
"Hey,"
God,
he's like, "I
oh,
need you
God.
to fill me out." Yeah.
Well,
It's like I'm not gonna make it, Andrew. It's too much.
But also, I can't stress this enough. Chad Mossholder helped us the entire way through.
Yeah, he was
that.
holding our hands the entire
Yeah.
time. Absolutely.
Yeah, he was like, David says that I was his Valium pill. Chad was mine.
Yeah.
I was calling to Chad all the time, like, is this gonna be terrible? You know, I need you to tell me honestly.
Yeah.
Can I ask, like, with Chad, or like, what are the kinds of things that you would go to for guidance? Would they be certain tones? Would they be effects? Would they be methods? Would they be states of mind? Like,
I think, I think for me it was more of like an overall kind of tone thing, making sure that it's hitting the right mood, you know, and it was more like, yeah, just kind of like how do you feel about this track, and put it against the footage and see how it works, and it was more one of those things.
I think mine
Kind of a
leaned a
general
little
thing,
bit.
you know.
I think mine leaned a little bit more into my conversations with him. Leaned a little bit more into, he was like, "Hey," he's like, "experiment with sound design. Like try this. Here's another tool. You know, here's something else I've been messing with. You might enjoy it." And it was the same way. Like I bounced that off David too. We'd bounce instruments off of each other and be
Yeah.
like, "I've been using this recently. You should try that." And
Absolutely,
yeah. And like that felt like, I think the thing that made it work, especially in the time frame that we had, was it felt like brain food every day. Like I felt like I was learning something from someone every day. And like as an artist, like that's harder to find the older you get. And whenever I felt like I was on sensory overload. I felt like every day I was getting new information and new material. During that, I was like, oh my gosh, there's like just this wealth of knowledge that I'm just soaking in. And so that was like inspirational in and of itself.
Yeah, for me it was helpful knowing that I'm not on my own in this. Like, thank God Andrew's here. And that was, I don't know why, psychologically that helped me a lot.
well, yeah, if it's like, hey, you gotta make DLC music for Doom in 6 weeks, I'm sure it's good to have a friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no
For
shit.
real. For real. It was like bonding at going to war together.
So that was like you've got Atlantica, you've got Blood Swamps, and you've got the Hulshult, and you've got 2 boss battles.
And we have
Right.
we have to do all the cinematics on top of that. too.
Yeah, so it was 6 weeks for all that.
Yeah.
Roughly. Yeah, I think it might have been 7. Like there may have been an extra week or something like that given. I can't quite remember, but it was like
I
roughly.
think the
around
last
6
week
weeks.
was like for any like last minute like
changes.
tweaks or changes. Yeah.
Okay, I have a question. You guys don't have to answer this, all right? But because of the time crunch, and you're like, oh my God, I have so much stuff I have to do. Did you reach into any old bag of tricks? Any tracks that you had worked on before but maybe didn't come to a complete project, and then pull some ideas from some older stuff and maybe repurpose and find a new way to use an old idea?
Absolutely not.
No way.
Okay.
I feel like there was no there's no bag of tricks, like nothing pre-existing, at least for me, that I worked on was transferable to Doom in this project
Okay.
as a whole. Like nothing worked. This is a completely it was a completely new way of working. It's a beast, and yeah, everything had to be made and done from scratch.
That's
Yeah,
interesting.
I don't like, honestly, I don't think I've ever done that on a project. I've heard of composers doing that, and there may come a time where I'm like, didn't use this demo over here.
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
I'll
like
use
you
this
like
later.
you write a good chorus, but you're like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
never wrote a good verse, and then I dropped it 5 years ago, and you're like, oh, well, that melody might actually work with this song I'm writing now.
Yeah.
I'm sure that'll show up at some point with me, because like I've got this back catalog of just cool shit where I'm like, I'm gonna write a record with this, and I'm like, still haven't wrote a record with it, so I'm like, this is gonna end up in a game somewhere.
That's what I did back in the day when I was working on a lot of just small projects, and a lot of them didn't get off the ground and never seen the light of day. Because I usually, when I write a track, I make sure that it's as original and as like, you know, bespoke for the project that I'm working on, for whatever it's for, you know. So a lot of times things don't translate to other games, and what I ended up doing back in the day is like I would take those tracks and just release them as like kind of like a compilation album. But yeah, I usually try not to cross-pollinate projects.
By the way, I think we may have gotten a little derailed. I don't know if you said anything about where you came from, David. Sorry.
Oh no!
We would love to know.
It's not as interesting.
I want to hear it.
I was waiting for like a good time to segue into it, but I just did not want to throw anyone off. Has it now been brought up, David?
Spotlight again. It's not as cool, not as interesting. I find it interesting though, contradicting myself already, that that Andrew and I had the same kind of common love for recording, which I still can't explain. But I was younger. I was like 15, 14, 16. Whenever I was like high school stuff, I was in bands and would always record everything at home. And but how I got to how did I get up to Doom? I don't have as much experience in games as Andrew. I did the majority of my work in film and animation and in shows, and I kind of worked my way up to Doom that way. Kind of came from a completely different direction. I've done games, but nothing in that level. And I'm just trying to think. The majority of the work that I'm known for is with a production company here in town called Rooster Teeth, and I've worked on their show Red versus Blue for many years and did sound design. Yeah, I got brought on during season 13. Up to that point, I've just worked on like countless like unknown projects. A lot of them just independent stuff that kind of never seen the light of day, like I said before. But I was able to kind of create a large portfolio and a body of work, and that was about 3 years into composing full time. I guess I should go backwards just a little bit before that. Up until I've been composing music for 9 years professionally, and but for about 7 years up to that point, I was doing sound engineering in Florida. I was an audio engineer, and I was just in studios all day, all night long. Kind of got burnt out on that, moved to Austin, didn't know anyone or anything, but decided to kind of pursue a career in composing. The reason being is because I would always write music for fun, and for whatever reason, it kind of lended itself to sounding cinematic, quote unquote. And everyone always said to me, "Hey, you should try to do this for a living. You write weird, like dark music that could work in movies." I'm like, all right, cool. So I did that, and for like 3 years or so, just worked on tiny projects. Then got a quote unquote discovered by one of the producers here at Rooster Teeth, and was brought on to work on season 13 of Red versus Blue. And I was mainly doing a lot of kind of trailer, epic orchestral type music back in the day. And that season needed that type of sound. And there was a composer on board already, and he's been working on a show for 12 years at that point. But they wanted to make a really epic kind of looking and sounding season, so they brought me on. And so Rooster Teeth was the first time I was working on a semi-big and known project, and with Red versus Blue. And I was doing that for years, just working on different shows, Ruby and other 2D shows. I was doing mixing and sound designing and music. And towards the I think 4th year of working with them, they started developing a project called Genlock. and I ended up getting the composer role in that show, and it wasn't offered to me. I was I was at the studio here all the time doing stuff, and I heard that they're developing a show, and they created it's called like a Bible, a show Bible, where it's essentially like a book full of like like art from the show and whatnot. And I took it home and looked at it and felt inspired and just wrote like a bunch of demos for the director, and he never asked me to, and I just did it, and I loved it so much. And I'm like, I came up to him one day, his name was Gray. I'm like, hey, I did this. If you like it, cool. If not, whatever. I felt really inspired by it, and I did it. And he listened to it and loved it, and essentially gave me the part of composing for the show. And that was the biggest thing I've worked at on that point. And from there on, I think Chad must have heard that music, because he reached out to me about a year later. And again, it has nothing to do with Doom, like whatsoever. It's really just kind of like just hybrid orchestral stuff. Maybe he heard some potential in it. I'm not sure. But yeah, he reached out to me and asked if I want to write a demo for Doom. And I did, and that's kind of how I ended up landing that gig. So yeah, I came from a completely different direction. I ended up in the same spot as Andrew.
Wow. Do you guys, I mean, I don't know how much you can comment on it. Do you guys intend on doing more things together in the future? I mean, whether you can speak officially as to what your next project would be, or whether you're just talking about whether you would just like to because you enjoyed it.
I mean, yeah, of course I would love to do it again. Yeah. Well, that's what I said. Yeah, fuck Andrew. Yeah, that's it.
No, I'd love to work with him again if we get an opportunity. Yeah.
That's that fuck you, I'll see you tomorrow syndrome.
That's right.
That's right.
I would love to actually like write something with him, because we didn't really get to do that. We worked separately the whole time.
Right.
Well, I won't go as far as being in the same room, because I think neither of us wears pants when we work. But
even
better. For sure.
How far?
Andrew, you mentioned. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, how far away are you guys in distance?
3.5 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well then,
I need to come up there one of these days.
Set it up.
I need to come down there one of these days. I think we're in a better spot now. I can probably.
Yeah, absolutely.
If everything holds out how it is right now, I can probably swing by in the next few months. I was thinking about that like last week, actually.
Yeah, at least get a pizza and watch some 80s action movies together.
That's right.
Oh God, don't start talking about RoboCop again.
I know. Yeah, I'm RoboCopped out. I'll shut up about him for a while. Spud, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was going to say, mentioning earlier on about the Doom music having such a heavy metal influence, and I guess a lot of the community behind the game from the 90s then through to Doom 3 with its killer theme song. Although like a lot of like Doom 3 is known for like it being a bit more horror and a bit more ambient in its tunes during the game, like the theme song of the actual game's like, you know, it's a banger. Up until Doom Eternal and like the games we've got now, the DLC, the lot. Sorry, what I was going to say was the music's been covered a lot by a lot of artists on YouTube and whatnot. And I feel like it's more than most games, like, because I look up, I love OSTs of movies, games, and one of my favorite things to do is I like looking up the covers and remixes that people make, because I feel like, oh, I love this melody so much, but let's see what someone's take is on it. And I remember years ago, one of the games that I got into the most was obviously the OG Doom game soundtrack and what people did with the MIDI music and re-envisioned it with actual guitars, all right? Now, the first dude that I got into that did it,
I know where this is going.
Yeah, this guy called Neurological, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever heard of that one. But he did the whole. I'm pretty sure he did 90% of the soundtrack, and there was a couple tracks missing. But it was like it was fucking banger. Like it was just so good.
Oh, good.
And it was just like I remember just like, oh, you know, refueling my hate, you know, and all these maps done and stuff, and it's just like, oh, this is just so good. This is just like, this is how I envisioned it in my head, but it's like actual guitars and drums. And then one day I discovered IDKFA. basically the full soundtrack done by this guy called Andrew Hulshult. And I was wondering, when you did that, because you've obviously said what influence some of your work has done to get you to the position you are now, and then work on Doom itself, right? How much, I guess, influence do you reckon that played in things happening and going the direction they did? Because like that to me is like yeah, we've got the original tunes done by Bobby, but like that's like the anthems of, I guess, the game. Like when I do all my streams in the past of like Doom mods and stuff, I'd throw on that album. I'd seen mods use it, like as you're aware of it, probably heaps of people have asked, look, can I put this in the WOD, man, you know? Like how much, like, do you like, how much impact do you reckon that had going into this direction?
A huge one, bigger than I like to think, especially in retrospect. Like I don't get to think about these things until they're like a couple of years away. Like you just put something out and then you're just like, yeah, this is fun, this sounds cool, I wonder if people like it. And I just remember whenever I first put that out, I was number one, I was blown away by how many user downloads it was getting daily on ModDB. It was getting like thousands. I was like, good lord. Like I didn't think it would be that popular, but this was like right around the time whenever Brutal Doom was pulling people back, like normies back over to Doom, just because they were like, whoa, this is like crazy pixel art violence.
That's what got me back into it, man. I haven't played Doom since like 2003 or something like that, just a little casually, and then I got Brutal Doom and I was like, oh god. And then
it's just an amalgamation of all this code that was just like all these different things happening, and sprite reworks and all this stuff, and it's really neat. And but like I remember to back up a little bit, whenever I first started that came from a place where I was trying to get better at mixing. Like, you know, you kind of grow as time goes on and you try and get better at your craft. And I remember coming straight off Rise of the Triad thinking, these are good, but they could be better. So I looked over at Doom, because I still played Doom like quite a bit, like original Doom. I just fired up all the time, and I was like, man, just for fun, like I can't do maps. Like I can't make maps. I never learned how to make maps. I'm sure it's very easy. Well, not like that. I'm sure I could learn it. I know it's not easy. I'm sure I could learn it and figure it out. But what's something that I could do with my craft to add to this community that obviously is somehow still thriving? So I was like, okay, I'm gonna take the shareware version of Doom and redo all this music, and I'll start mixing it as I go, and we'll just have some fun with it and see what happens. And that just spiraled into this thing whenever I started putting like tracks on YouTube where they would get like, whereas anything I'd put on YouTube would get like a few hundred views, these got like 10,000 and like 50,000 and 100,000. I was like, well, people are clearly interested in this, so that's going to push me in this direction a little bit more too. Okay. So as time went on with it, I started looking at it almost like I was like, wow, this is fun. This is great. I'm loving this. Like it was fun the entire way through. I also saw the bigger picture where I was like, people are going to know this probably more than they are some of the other games that I'm working on. So this needs to be really good. Now kind of the self pressure is on more than ever. So I actually went and I got a hold of, I can't remember if it was, I don't think it was John Romero. I know I talked to Romero a couple times, but I somehow got a hold of Bobby Prince. Like I got his phone number, and I called him, and I think I got it from Lee Jackson actually. I called him and I was like, "Hey, hi Bobby, hello sir, my name's Andrew. I'm if it's okay, I would like to put out these remakes of your original works, which I think are fantastic, and a lot of other people do too. I'm sure you're well aware, but I'd like your blessing first, and I'd like you to take a listen." I came to him like with all the respect that I would want as an artist. If somebody was coming to me and being like, "Hey, I want to repaint your painting," you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he was so cool about it, dude. And he just talked with me for hours about the old days at id, shared all kinds of stories that I'd never heard before. All kinds of stuff that I'm like, oh my gosh, that happened, And it just inspired me more. So it went from this shareware thing to I was like, I'm going to redo the entire game. And he was totally cool with it. He said, yeah, just put it up and you should just have fun. He's like, you're talented and you should be proud of your work and please stay in touch. So I like every year I try and call him at least twice a year just to catch up on things. But yeah, that made such a big impact that I'm sure that's where some of the stuff from the connections and friends that I've now made for life came from at id, and probably a good portion of the decision making maybe on bringing me on for the Ancient Gods,
I remember seeing your name come up on Reddit all the time. Like the community was literally asking for you. Like they've decided like that's it. Like if Mick is out, then like Andrew's in.
Yeah, it was like one of those things where it was like,
how did that feel? Seriously, like for that to happen, and then like overnight, it's everyone in the community is like, hey, it's you, and you're like, what?
Yeah, it was strange. Because like stepping into something that's already been established, like that was a completely different direction. Doom 2016 was a new direction, which it needed to be.
Right.
Stepping into something that was already established, I think we both knew. Like I wasn't trying to look at it from all these people are are calling me and all this kind of stuff and like they want me to. But I was looking at it from okay, this might actually be a thing, and if it is, I'm not sure what the situation is, but I need to make sure that I can respect the work that came before, and just make sure that it's all held well and regarded well and everything. Like the last thing that I would want to happen for me is if I had to step away from a project or something like that and someone else took over, is if they just walked in and just completely abandoned anything that I'd worked on beforehand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like keeping the art long form, like a big long vision and trying to add to it.
Right.
So that was more or less what I was. I think we were both kind of looking at it from. Wasn't like there's no fucking ego stroke there. It's more like how do I serve this IP that has obviously served this entire community and me for years.
Yeah, we were told like essentially do not copy Mick. We don't want another Mick. Like you respect what came before you and do your own thing on it. Yeah. And that's what he was saying too. Like as a player, I would not want to hear something that's a cheap copy or something that's completely like left turn and sounds completely different. So that was two challenges, two huge challenges on their own right there.
Yeah.
It's like be original, but don't be too original and do it in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It was such a
exactly that
strange phenomenon because like thinking about how it went down, where like Mick is out, and then like and I assume Andrew, before you even get the call, you have an entire community already announcing that it has to be you. And
my email was full, bro.
It's like I don't know every community of games, obviously, but I can't think of another phenomenon like it, where someone is out and then immediately everyone else just has the same name. I'm talking to my friends who don't even play the game, but they know that I am in love with it, and I was talking about when Mick was out, and I was like, yeah, everyone's talking about Andrew Hulshult, and they're like, oh yeah, really, yeah, he did Dusk, I love Dusk, and I was like, they would be morons not to call him. Like that's that's the situation. That's how literally everyone felt, and I don't know if that's happened in another gaming community. It's an interesting moment in gaming history.
It's so weird for someone to say gaming history.
It is though. It's game for a phenomenon like that. It's
true.
Yeah. But it's I mean, yeah, it was cool. Like, don't get me wrong. For a moment, I was like, "Oh,
Were you aware of that?
like, you know, oh, fun times." Aware of what?
Of
Like,
what was going on? Like as soon as like Mick was out, were you aware of that people were calling you by name?
yeah,
Oh yeah,
Okay.
it must have been.
yeah, like
He was everywhere.
Specifically because, like, I mean, like, I feel like Dave Austri would send me, because like Dave's awesome. Dave's been in my, like, kind of like in my corner for a lot of things. Like, he always wants me to. He's like, I know you're on this rocket ship, dude. You have no idea, and you're just you're heading somewhere, and you don't even know it. And like, he's always like, you should do this, you should do that, you know. And he was like, dude, he's like, it's gonna be you. You look at how hard you've worked on this stuff. Look at all these people. You know, he'd send me these Reddit posts, and he'd send me like people DMing him, asking him to tell me, and like, like, and I'm so thankful to have people like that around. But at the same time, like, I was like, I don't want to see this stuff. You know, like, I was like, I just want to write music, please.
Yeah, because it wasn't a gradual thing either. It wasn't like people were debating like,
No,
hey, it should be this
overnight,
guy.
it was
It should
everywhere.
be this guy. It should be no. It was like, hey, oh, they need to call Andrew immediately.
I was also like right in the middle of juggling like 3 projects, and I was like, oh, look, more stress. Every game developer loves that, you know. But I was like, yeah, okay, all right, right on.
I remember seeing all that. It kind of it came about like after I submitted my demo, somewhere around there, the Chad, and I remember seeing all the posts. I'm like, oh, okay, well, this guy is obviously the next, like, he's the next composer. I don't know why I just sent the demo. I'm like, all right, I'm back to my own thing, and I literally, like, as it took months to hear back from them. I'm like, all right, well, that was fun. I got to experiment with different type of music. Obviously this guy's getting it. Cool. Next.
Not so
I mean,
much.
I was convinced.
That's not how
100%.
fate played
I'm like,
out.
Yeah, no, I'm like, there's no way. I mean, this is the guy, and I listen to everything he's done. I'm like, this is it. I mean, this is the guy. Cool.
Oh, I love you.
What?
Could I ask, are there any old video game soundtracks that are influential to your work?
I mean, like, outside of like the Bobby Prince stuff.
Well, I mean, like when I think like older kind of like metal focused awesome game soundtracks, I think like Twisted Metal 2, you know, like
Yeah. Like those were awesome. Believe it or not, a lot of the stuff that I like for the most part isn't always metal, like with games. Like I really like is it Michael McCann and Sasha, their work on the Deus Ex franchise is some of my favorite.
Human
recent work.
Revolution.
Yeah,
is just
Human Revolution
far
has
out,
some
man.
amazing music, and Mankind
Yeah.
Divided had great music as well. What's up?
No, I was gonna say he's like, I swear I read something on the internet where he's like, he wants to distance himself from that kind of work. Like, he doesn't
Yeah.
want to do so much like I guess ambient electronic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I shit you not, like, it's like Blade Runner level. You know what I mean?
It
like
really
that kind of
is.
reverence.
It's like I hold it really high. Like it's really high tier in my book. But I like, as an artist, I totally understand whenever somebody says something like that, because you feel like whenever you finish a project, if you feel like I've done what I needed to do here, then you're like, I need to go a new avenue, which is, you know, why, like, growing up when we were listening to rock bands and metal bands, or just, you know, something like that, if they changed their sound a little bit, everybody would get pissed off. But as you get older, you're like,
I was one of those.
no.
I was one of those fans.
Yeah. As you get older, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. Like,
Yeah.
we didn't want to get stuck in a rut. It's also the same way.
You're growing as a person too, so you know everything changes. So.
Yeah, it's also why games change. You know,
Yeah,
like
well, old
2016.
Andrew. We sound like old people now.
Like 2016 to Eternal is a complete. That's a really big dynamic change in terms of mechanics, and it's because, hey, let's reinvent this. You know, why continue just to make, you know, why make Doom 2016 2?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say Michael McCann and Sasha are big influences for me. I stem a lot actually outside of games for what I'm looking for, and I still go back to some of the classics, like The Fragile's one of my favorite records ever. I still feel like I can pull things from it.
I was like gritting my teeth trying not to mention it, but like
it's the best double disc ever made.
I mean,
Mayo.
like you're talking about artists not like having to evolve and not repeating themselves. I mean, it would have been so easy to make a Downward Spiral too, and he would have hated it, right? And he made The Fragile, and there were all kinds of fans that were like, "This sucks," and the rest of us are like, "This is brilliant. What the fuck is wrong with you?"
and he made that entire thing in the infancy of Pro Tools, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. Someone correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, or here if you know. In the infancy of Pro Tools, with a brand new Pro Tools console rig that had just started shipping, with what would later become Reactor from Native Instruments. Like, these were all just like new tools, and he just like made this record. It's such a weird phenomenon with that word. Or maybe it was Broken that he did that. I can't quite remember, but man, like, just that record, just the atmosphere and like the roller coaster. You can find songs that'll just like that make you just like absolutely so full of energy, and then songs where it's just like, I just want to be by myself. It's insane how much atmosphere that record has, and how back and forth it is.
Yeah, we're talking about Nine Inch Nails, by the way, for listeners who don't recognize what The Fragile means.
yeah. It's an amazing record. If you have time, please, go check it out.
Yeah,
it's definitely a defining record for me, especially if you go listen to Dusk. That's where a ton of that came from.
That's not surprising.
Yeah.
Do you ever listen to the scores? I'm like, I am, man, that guy is my fucking idol. Honestly, like, all the stuff he's done in his movies the past 10 years or so, it's just brilliant.
So good.
Brilliant.
Yeah, the guy tries his first time to score a movie, and he wins an Oscar.
Wins an Oscar.
Yeah, that's fine. It's no big deal.
I mean, speaking of movies. Okay, continue. I don't want to derail.
No. I was just about to bring up The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Yeah.
Absolutely stunning work. Like,
I
every
remember
track.
I was in the theater whenever seeing that with my girlfriend Taya, and she, like, we're sitting there, and when the credits come on, and it's the Led Zeppelin song, and it's his remix of that.
Yeah.
And like I stopped for a second, and I was like, and I looked over at her, and I go, "That's fucking Trent Reznor." And she goes, "Huh?" And I was like, "That's fucking Nine Inch Nails." I was like, "What?" I was like, "I didn't know that they did movies." And she's like, "No," she's like, I don't think so, blah, blah. And like later on, I was like, as the movie went on, and I started hearing like certain synthesizers that I was like, that's fucking Trent Reznor. Like, that's a Swarmatron. Like, like, that was crazy for me, because I went into that not knowing, and I was like, oh my god, my favorite artist did this movie. How did I not know this?
Yeah.
Anyways,
for any listeners who are curious about Nine Inch Nails, start with their first album. I always say that with any other bands, like, you have to kind of like, pick a certain album for somebody. I always say just start with Pretty Hate Machine.
What's your favorite song off that record?
Which album?
Pretty Hate Machine.
My favorite song, oh Jesus Christ, was probably That's What I Get.
I like Sin.
Sin is a great single.
Yeah,
That's What I Get is just,
That's What I Get's so awesome too. I love that.
I love that. I like that one a lot, and I like I mean, you can't go wrong with Terrible Lie ever. So
yeah, no. That's a crowd winner.
Favorite song from The Fragile is Just Like You Imagined, and it will be my favorite song for all time.
That's really good. Mine changes all the time with that record. I think right now it's We're in This Together. I mean, like, it's either that or Into the Void.
I just need to quickly. I actually have a something to mention about this topic of discussion, but I've got to go quickly answer my door, so I'll be right back.
Oh, okay.
Go for it.
Okay.
Ding dong.
Yeah, it would be very easy for you and me to derail this entire conversation into a
Trent
podcast
Reznor.
about The Fragile and everything. When I saw on Twitter, I think I posted something about The Fragile, and I think you responded to my tweet. And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I was like, Andrew Hulshult fucking sees my Twitter? What? And he's a Fragile fan? Oh,
yeah,
my God.
Dude.
I was at a party once, like, years ago, and I was dating someone, they introduced me to her best friend, and he's like, hey, he's a huge Nine Inch Nails fan. I was like, oh, really? Cool. And I looked at him and I said, what's the best Nine Inch Nails album? And he looks at me and he says, well, there's only one answer, The Fragile. I was like, well, that's the right answer. And I shook his hand. I was like, we're going to be friends.
Yeah, like, I don't know, like that band always held a special regard for me because, like, I mean, obviously this is so cliche, but like I found them when I was in like a really like a turmoil point in my life, and I was like, oh, this is what I need, and it actually started kind of turning me around. Like it's like that old cliche thing you hear where, like, you know, an artist's music actually you know, helped me through these times. It totally did for me with that record, especially me and another person.
I found him in the shower.
This is, what did you have, one of those Bluetooth, like?
No, my mom had a waterproof radio
nice.
in the shower, and I heard it had like a hole, and I was like, this is cool. I was a little kid, and so a friend of mine had Pretty Meat Machine and let me borrow it, and I never.
Have you ever seen him live?
Never turned back. I've seen him live 8 times.
Wow, I've only seen him live twice.
I saw him play The Perfect Drug and I'm Afraid of Americans in 2018.
Oh, that's so cool, the David Bowie song. I've always wanted to see that played live.
Yeah, no, I saw him in the Fragile tour and then every tour since, except for the Hesitation Marks tour.
Yeah. That was, I think, when I saw them, the Hesitation Marks tour, where they had that. I mean, like, they've always got a crazy lighting rig, but those ones that would move the panels back and forth, that was really neat.
Fragile tour is a moment of my life, man. That was amazing.
I'm back.
You back?
Sorry, my lunch was at the door.
You have to stop us from talking about Nine Inch Nails.
What'd you get?
I mean, I ordered a McDonald's. I'm being good.
Hell yeah.
Well, no, it's I just needed something quick and fast. But actually, you said I need to stop you talking. I'm actually going to continue this discussion because no, I think Nine Inch Nails in general have provided inspiration in all kinds of places. The first time I ever heard them was I don't know if anyone that's watching this or listening to this, if you've ever seen The Crow, the first Crow movie.
Oh yeah,
one of my favorite movies that ever came out.
Dead Souls.
One of the most iconic scenes of that movie, when Eric Draven's kind of running across the rooftops and doing all the swinging and everything else. You've got Dead Souls playing in the background.
Yeah.
And like that song was used in all of the promotional material, and it really is, when you think of The Crow, when you hear that sort of, basically when you just hear the first 60 seconds of that song, you immediately, your brain just goes into, you know, the dark city of, I think The Crow is set in New York, I think, but you know, I hear Dead Souls and I just think of Devil's Night. You know what I mean? And it's like very, very good. And I still listen to that to this day. You know, and it just reminds me of when I first saw the film.
Well, like we're not just talking about a random band. I mean, Nine Inch Nails is literally referenced in the first Doom game.
Yeah.
Right. Like
there's ties all over the place.
Yeah. You play the first mission. You play the first level of mission 4, and there's a secret that shows the NIN logo on the roof. Right. There's
nail gun boxes in Quake.
The NIN logo on the nail gun boxes in Quake. You know, the id Software was always wearing Nine Inch Nails shirts. John Romero and John Carmack. Like it's tied to it. Like in Mick Gordon's music, you can obviously hear Nine Inch Nails in it.
Yeah,
you can obviously hear when he's combining the sound of a chainsaw with a guitar. You're like, that sounds like something I heard on the Fragile 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's like, wonder where these ideas came from.
Yeah, like
what records were you listening to?
It's huge. It's like, if you want to understand, you know, a lot of like the Doom soundtrack, you go back and you listen, particularly to the Downward Spiral and the Fragile. The Downward Spiral for its industrial production, and the Fragile for its guitar fuzz tones.
Yeah,
you know, there's like 20 different kinds of guitar fuzz effects on the Fragile. It's crazy.
Yeah, there's a ton, man. You could go on about that record just in guitar sounds for days.
Well, Andrew, I'm probably gonna end up just like randomly calling you someday on Discord, and I'll be like, dude, I'm listening to the Fragile. We gotta talk about this.
He's like super drunk.
What is
hey,
this?
Let's talk about the Fragile.
What is this sound? It's been 20 years. I still can't identify this sound. What is this shit?
The hills are alive with the sound of 9 Inch Nails. But I think that when it comes to everyone has those kind of key games that have soundtracks that resonate with them. You would be not surprised with just how many people are like that in the fighting game scene, because so many fighting games, like their soundtracks, especially the older games, those soundtracks are like
iconic.
Super. Yeah, absolutely. Like to this day, my all-time favorite soundtrack was the original Killer Instinct. Which just had a million different genres in it, because every character had different things. And did you know that Graham Norgate and Robin Beanland, that was their first ever piece of video game music they'd ever written? Was they got brought on board by Rare.
Pretty good first start.
And that was their debut. Yeah, it was. And then they go on to do things like Jet Force Gemini, which was my introduction to like more orchestral music in games back in the N64 days. But even games like Bloody Roar 2, which has another one of my favorite soundtracks, because there's just a lot of guitar riffing going on, and it's like super cool. Soul Calibur 2 with loads and loads of its orchestra stuff, very epic and very very large in its scale, and that's just to name a few. But it's a lot of people like to. There's something about linking a certain track to a certain character that I think people are really into. Lots of characters have their own theme songs, whether that is tied to the character and it plays, or whether the character has a stage, the music is linked to that stage. It's the same kind of difference, I suppose. But I do think you get that in other genres too, but with fighting games, it's just rampant with how it still happens all the time. People look at those individual tracks and they're so different to each other.
Yeah, and it's so different from each other. I was about to say the same thing. Like it's crazy. Like, the last Killer Instinct that Mick did, I thought was just fucking brilliant. Like all of his stuff with it that he brought to the table. Like I was like, oh, this is so good.
It's actually something I really enjoy is when people say they really enjoyed the Doom 2016 soundtrack and everything else, and I'm like.
If you listen to Killer Instinct,
just go listen to those first 2 seasons, and you have countless tracks which are just unbelievable. What a way to reignite such a legendary franchise was.
Totally.
That.
Yeah, agreed.
I just recently played it for my first time, and it is really fun.
Yeah, that is awesome.
I avoided Killer Instinct for a while because I was so bitter at Double Helix for making Silent Hill Homecoming. I was like, fuck this, I'm not playing a game from them ever again. and then I finally got it on Steam, and I was like, I watched tournaments because I'm a fighting game guy, and so I appreciated it, but I never played it, and I finally played it, and it's pretty cool, man. Really fun, really fast.
We have the best Killer Instinct player in Europe who comes to our locals, and he fucks us up whenever we want to play it. Yeah, Valarax.
Okay.
He won Combo Breaker in 2018.
Okay.
18 or 19. Yeah, he's from the UK. He won Combo Breaker one year. It was a great tournament.
Some of those videos you share on Twitter, Ketchup, are just ridiculous. I've watched them for like the last 2 or 3 years. Whenever you tweet something out, it's like, here's this new combo from Mortal Kombat 11. I'm like, what the fuck is even going on right now?
I think I assume you're talking a little bit more along the lines of like recently with like King of Fighters 15 that came out, which has like really big.
Well,
they're
even
not,
some of the
they're
stuff
not as
from like
difficult as they look, but
even some of the stuff from like back in the day, like there'd be a couple times where you'd share stuff from like MK Ultimate and stuff where I'd be like, what?
Oh,
what?
That's the weird shit.
Like all the infinites and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where like someone does like
good shit.
Someone does like 3 jabs and then they run across the screen and do 3 more jabs as they just like catching the same person in the air.
Yeah.
Reptiles Infinite, man. That was hard to do. There was a video online of a
the kid.
I can't remember how young he was. Yeah, the kid from Chile.
Yeah.
I can't remember how old he was. He was very young though, and I think it was his dad recording. I could be wrong. I'm sure someone will correct me, but yeah, doing like one of the hardest combos in the game on an arcade cabinet, by the way, with that really sort of cursed X layout.
Yeah.
I obviously don't have a picture on hand, but the old school button layout for Mortal Kombat is you need to have big hands to use that properly. It's like so spread out. But
Anytime I watch those guys on cabinets, like whenever they're like real fast on it, there's like this immediate weird association where I'm like, like I've been told my entire life, hey, in your picking hand, like you play pretty fast, you're gonna have carpal tunnel later on, and you're gonna need like you're possibly gonna get like need surgery at some point, so you need to just be aware of that. And then I watch these kids like play like arcade machines, and I'm like, how are your hands not just like broken by the time you're 50? Like
that's actually always an interesting discussion, because from what I've been able to see, and by all means I do not want to spread false information here, but I think that people that get those issues, it actually tends to come from pad players more.
Really?
Like, Smash Brothers players, with the amount of inputs that are required, and they all obviously play on pad, GameCube controllers, like the way to play it. A lot of top Smash players end up having rather significant hand troubles. I wouldn't even say later into their life. Like some of these people are like in their 20s, it seems like, and they get hand troubles. Some pad players end up with the same thing, and some players end up moving to stick, the fight stick, because it's a little bit easier
more
on the
movement.
Because the pad is so
thumb focused, right?
Yeah, it's all fingers, and the way you hold your hands, like I'm kind of simulating holding a controller now and moving my fingers around. You can feel that strain almost immediately, but when you play on a stick, it's a little bit more. It's hard to explain, but it is in my experience a bit more ergonomic.
I think that makes sense in my head. David, you're a drummer. Would like have you experienced anything from playing drums?
No, you just
maybe it's because there's more movement.
You muscle through it, honestly.
Yeah. Maybe it's just because there's more movement.
Yeah, but you know what? What really fucks up your wrist? It's not the gaming. It's not the drums. It's not the instruments. It's like for me, like when I work for like 13 hours a day, just like the mouse, just holding the mouse for like 13 hours a day, like every single day for fucking years. That's like that kind of strain. Like it's like slow. And it comes on and you don't even feel it,
I agree. In fact, then it's like in the last year, I definitely noticed that.
Yeah, I always have like this really just kind of like just subdued pain in my right wrist, and it's definitely from the mouse. And I know it's like if I don't work on the weekend, it feels better by Monday, and then I fuck it up again by Friday. But yeah, honestly, like a lot of times you just gotta just take a breather.
Yeah.
If whenever it is that you're doing that's hurting it.
Well, eventually we'll get to the point where we have chips in our heads and you can just think, and you'll move the cursor and you'll be able to type words and do your edits without using your hands. When you're 60 or so.
I want my metal spine and metal legs already.
What about the fucking Neuralink or whatever Elon Musk is working on?
Yeah.
thing
The
that's pretty much it.
That's already it. It's already like being tested.
He put the chip in the pig's head, and the pig plays MIDI music. Like,
yeah.
I was like, cool, make it play Imp's song whenever it's I really need to like put that together in a meme. I'm sure that meme would do well.
Do it.
Yeah.
So what else do you guys want to talk about?
I don't know. What are the topics you got to throw at us?
I don't know.
I guess the uncertain, the future. What both of you, David, Andrew, what would be you? I guess like because like some people, let's just say hypothetically, both your dreams was to do Doom, and that was it. That was like the apex for you. Let's say you've done that now. Well, what now? Do you know what I mean? Like, what would be a dream project for both of you? I guess I'll start with Andrew. Like, where do you go from here?
I mean, like working on Doom was a dream. I feel like I could expand on that if I was ever called for it, because I'd really like to do a long throw title with Doom.
Sure.
But I mean, like we'll see if that.
Yeah, I'm sure they're a ways away
idea.
from getting to the music part of their next game.
Yeah, generally game development, it's like the music comes in like way later on. But we'll see if that pans out. As far as where to go after this, like really I would love, well, I've taken everything I've learned from Doom, because Doom was like a crash course in a wealth of knowledge, like I was saying earlier, from David and Chad. and I took a bunch of that, and I'm actually applying a lot of that to not the sound, but just like what I learned to the Medieval DLC that I'm working on right now. And I think it's like, I'm really, really happy with the way it's come out. And I think people are going to be like, holy shit, whenever they hear it. But in terms of like, after working on that, I'm excited for the Medieval stuff. I'm excited to get the rest of the Proteus stuff as a soundtrack if I can, like all together. Because they called me for more music after we already released the soundtrack, and I was like, shit. But like that wasn't supposed to happen. But you know, hey, more music's more music. I don't think anybody's complaining. I would really like to explore just building more new IP, like with like Indefatigable, with a Medieval, and like with New Blood and David with Dusk. I'd really like to continue building on stuff like that. Like those are staples that came around at a time whenever retro FPS revival was just getting started, and you know, they got to be forerunners on that, and I feel like those could be built out more as time goes on. But I mean, like we'll see how that goes. I'm just glad that I got to be a part of those. Like I was friends with the right people, and you know, like we just all enjoy working together. But now I'm at a point in my career where it's like, how do we build this so that, you know, maybe whenever I'm 40 or something, someone else is taking reins from this, who's 20 years old, who wants to write music for it, and they're then sourcing my material or something like that, you know? I'm looking at it now from like almost like you need to look at this 10 years from now legacy perspective. Because like there's been so many cool things that's happened just in 10 years with me. I'm sure 10 more years has a lot to come that's like just as cool, if not way bigger, and you're just getting started, even though it feels like you've been working on it your entire life.
Yeah.
I'm sure the next 10 years are probably the craziest that I'll have in this industry. But outside of the industry with that, I'm actually here. I'll make an announcement here. I'm writing original material for the first time since 2015, and I'm writing a record with my best friend Ryan Regis. We don't have anything to put out yet, and we don't even have a name for the project. We're coming over to my studio and about once, twice a week, and just staying up till about midnight writing material, and then going and grabbing drinks directly afterwards to just blow off some steam.
Well, awesome.
And it's coming together really, really well.
Is he gonna release it this year, you think?
I would say that next year is probably a better thing. I think we've got one song almost completely completed, and completely completed. We've got one song almost done front to back, and then we've got about 4 or 5, 30 to 45 second good healthy ideas that we're fleshing out around that.
Song title, completely completed.
Completely completed. Oh,
that's not bad.
Gosh.
That's not
have
bad.
Have you ever seen the band from Fort Worth, Texas called Complete?
No.
Okay,
I don't
well,
think have you guys?
It's complete with a K. It's Komplete.
Okay.
You, after this is done, you need to go look that up, because you will be like, what am I watching? It is the funniest, most ridiculous thing ever.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Like that just totally brought that to my head. I hadn't thought about that in years, and it's amazing. You probably saw it on E-Bombs World years ago, and you were like, "What's this?" That's what that is. It's great. Anyways, yeah, that's where I see. That's what I want to do with kind of the rest of my career. Hopefully. What about you, David?
What about me? I want to.
He's gonna do JC Penney jingles for the rest of his life.
Hell yeah!
I'm done with that. That's it. That's in the past. I want to establish a sound for a game. I want to do what Mick did for Doom. I want to do that for a new IP. I want to create something that's synonymous with the game and something that's sought after, I guess.
Yeah, just like
Nice.
new IP, like
New
I think
IP,
we're in the
and
same
I
boat.
want to give it like a truly unique musical identity. Something that hasn't been done, or it's been done, but do it better. You know what I mean? Something different. So, yeah, I want to do something big.
Are
Always
there
No, I
exploring
definitely
new
think you can do
territory.
that, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
are there any franchises that you would just like love to get the call from?
You know what game I absolutely adore is fucking Just Cause. You ever play those games?
Oh, those games are great.
Cannot get enough of those games. They're just so over the top. It would be fun to work on something like that. You know, I am a huge RTS game nerd. I grew up playing those games. I grew up like, I'll never forget the first game I played in all night. My first like all nighter playing a video game. I was probably like 12 years old. I remember seeing my dad leaving to work at like 5 a.m. and I'm still fucking playing. It was Dune 2.
Oh
That's like
yeah,
the first
Westwood.
strategy,
Yeah.
first strategy game I've ever played, and I was so hooked. Like from there on, I was playing all the Command and Conquers and Red Alerts and the StarCraft and all of those games. I'm a
Nice.
huge fucking that is my
But
game right there.
you know what? There's like there's almost like a bit of a similarity there, because for me, like the two games that I feel that have like really strong identities with their music is obviously like the Doom titles, but like the Westwood titles, like especially
Yeah.
when it comes to like the guitars.
Yeah.
Like,
Frank
Dude,
Klepecki
Red
was
Alert
way ahead
theme?
of his time.
Oh my
Yeah.
god! I mean,
not to bring up world politics, but like after recent events, like the first thing that came to my head was the friggin' Red Alert theme, which is like probably immature, but like holy shit, that's how much impact that music has, though.
I know.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
that's the first
So,
time
like,
I noticed like something like, oh my god, this is good.
Yeah.
It'll be really fun to do something like that, just because of my passion for RTS games. But yeah, I mean, I'm really up for whatever.
I think mine would be like Hitman. I'd really like to work with that franchise.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think like I love the music that's there and all the reboots. It's great. But I like there's a part of me and like this is absolutely no disrespect and like what's there now. I think it's fantastic. I don't think anything needs to be changed. But if they were to do something else with it and they wanted to explore a different territory, I'd really like to try a hand at kind of reinvigorating and a different view into that franchise, kind of where Jesper Kid was with like contracts and Hitman 2, like the original Hitman 2. Oh, that's confusing. Where it was like it was a little bit more sinister, and also not just sinister, but also I don't know how else to describe this music other than it sounds sinister and somewhat psychotic. Like I really dug that out of the old Hitman franchise. And
The theme to like Codename 47.
Yeah,
It's like it does sort of lean in with that sinister stuff, but then it goes into like that big epic like the synths that are used, like it's these big open swells, and it makes you think like something bigger is going to happen, because like this, just like that song sort of embodies what happens with the game. Like at first it's just like these sinister missions where you're just assassinating gang leaders or some dude who's like a weapon runner, and then all of a sudden you find out you're a part of some secret genetic experiment or some shit like that, and
there's also this weird feeling of hollowness throughout a bunch of those soundtracks. It's really strange. I think Jesper's just brilliant at what he does, especially in that era. Like there's samples of just strange stuff going on in those earlier Hitman games, and like I was sourcing a lot from those earlier Hitman games for the ambience work in Dusk.
Oh, yeah, I can hear that.
Yeah, sometimes I would take string sections, and there's a track called, I think it's Sanitarium in Hitman Contracts, that's got this really strange backwards string phrase just through a really long reverb that I was always like, that is the weirdest shit I've ever heard. I just kind of did my own version of something like that in my own head, and then I was like, okay, let's reverse this, and I put it in the Neo Babel level of Dusk. Whenever you get to the very top of that big machine in episode 2, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. It's just all fucking weird. But yeah, like that's a franchise I'd love to work on as Hitman.
If there's one game that I have always held in such high esteem, I would love to see another one. And a big part of it was that music was Turok.
Yeah.
I talk about Turok all the time, but the Turok 2, like Seeds of Evil soundtrack, there was something about Turok's music across both 1 and 2 that was still, I feel like to this day, so insanely different to every other FPS.
Pretty dope. Yeah.
Yeah, it really was. Especially the PC versions, which are like clearer. You know, I much prefer the PC versions to N64.
Yeah.
But that's the one IP where I'm like, whoever is holding on to those rights for dear life, please give them to someone that will actually do something.
I don't know who has those. I know my buddy Steven re-releases all that stuff for him, but I don't know if he has the actual rights. I don't think he does.
Yeah, the Night Dive stuff is fantastic with Turok.
Yeah.
If any of them are listening to this, Rage Wars with online multiplayer, you know, I think that's a good one, man. That's the one we want.
Oh, dude, like he's so all over all that stuff, like game preservation. It's so nice to have a company like that that's trying their best to bring that kind of stuff back. And their port of Quake was great. I dug that.
I agree.
I've been a bunch.
The co-op works really well too.
It was awesome to see my entire Steam library for like a solid like month and a half just like have like 9 people playing Quake. And I was like, this is fucking awesome.
Yeah, just to play the deathmatch for the weekend again with just like full servers.
yeah, that was so much
fun. That was time travel.
I did something in Quake I never thought I'd do in the original and clear out a server. I was the only one looking for armor in that, right? I was the only one playing items at all. Just run around, you know, with the shotgun or nail gun. And then one by one people leave, and it's like, I never thought I'd get to do this.
Hey, I was by the way, on the topic of Quake, has there ever been like I was discussing this with a friend of mine brought it up the other day, and I was like, I don't know, and like maybe y'all do. Has there ever been somebody that's worked, like a composer that's worked on a Quake and a Doom game?
Quake and a Doom game?
Sonic, I don't think Sonic.
Sonic Mayhem did 2, didn't they?
Yeah.
Quake 2.
That's Sasha. He did Quake 2 and Quake 3.
Trying to
I don't
think.
know.
Maybe hold on. No. I think Doom 3 had someone who, but it's like, hold on. Let me do a quick
I
Google
think this
here.
is just Andrew's way of bragging that he worked on both Quake and Doom. Can you guys think of anybody else?
Of course.
I think somebody else did though.
What was the line from Doom 2016? The only living being to walk between worlds.
Yeah, there you go. That's your new Twitter profile.
Yeah, that'll be in my bio. Yeah,
That has to be the name of a song that you release with your mate, is Walk Between Worlds.
yeah.
Good name. Maybe an album name, perhaps. Who knows?
Dude, my buddy brought that up whenever we were like 4 or 5 drinks in, and I was like, oh my god, why would you say that to me right now? Like, it's like that's kind of neat if that's true.
Now you just got to do the next Wolfenstein. Yeah.
Oh man, have the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that'd be amazing.
All 3, dude.
I haven't heard from Machine Games, but hey, Machine Games, if you're listening, you know,
Yeah.
hey, hello.
I'd love to hear when you guys take on the new Twisted Metal game.
Man.
I'm excited for that. I mean, I hope it's good.
I would love to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
Is there any leaks or anything, like, because
No.
I've heard rumors and stuff that something might be happening.
No, they it is in development, but it was being made by the developer that did Destruction, or some car destruction game, or whatever. I don't remember what it was.
The one that was in early access for
Destruction
a long time?
All Stars or something. And Sony took it from them, and it gave it to another developer.
Ouch.
Because it was not going well, apparently.
Yeah.
That's all we know. But I just want a fucking great single player / co-op campaign. I don't like what was great like what sucked about the last one is that it was made to be just like an online multiplayer only small thing that got forced into being a full price title, and it didn't have the content for it. Just like give me a great 12 map single player campaign with 10 to 15 different cars with their characters and their stories like the classics, and then have online co-op and deathmatch, and I'm good. That's all we need. We don't need factions and
overcomplicated.
Yeah.
Can you imagine some of those? Oh, go ahead, David.
No, go.
I was about to say, can you imagine some of those stories from like Twisted Metal Black being tried to play it out like today?
Man.
Some of them, I'm like, yeah, that's not gonna work. You're gonna be on the front page of Reddit.
It's dark shit, but that's what,
it's really
what they
dark
gotta
shit.
do, I guess.
Yeah, but I would love to see a new Twisted Metal. I totally tell them,
a true, fully fleshed out Twisted Metal game where you want to play through the campaign with every single character because they're fun and they're interesting stories.
Car combat's cool when it's done right.
I feel like I would be doing a shitposting disservice if I didn't bring this up, seeing as we're talking about Twisted Metal. Has anybody in this call ever seen the unused live-action Twisted Metal endings?
No,
I feel like I have, but it's been a long time.
You can go on YouTube right now, and you can search engine Twisted Metal live-action endings.
Okay.
And they were never used, but they are some of the... They follow the stories that are actually used in the game, like the text in it.
Yeah.
But they're live action, they've got actors, and the endings are acted out instead of anything else. But it was super clearly like, early days, because the person that was acting as Calypso kept
gosh,
super cheesy.
These are
it as
these are terrible. I love it.
High octane competition. No, the best two endings. Well, no, it's actually really hard to pick a best one, but I think my favorite one is the demon guy who drives the big truck. That his ending is
Minion.
I'm watching it right now.
Oh my god! There's the I think it's called Mr. Grimm, the guy on the motorbike.
Mr. Grimm.
His ending is, "I am the winner and you are my prize," and it's supposed to be he raises his hand to point at Calypso, and it's a skeleton hand, revealing that he is this other character. But in the live action ending, it's clearly, just a fake bony hand with the glove on, and when it's like raised up into the camera, it's like wobbling and stuff. It's just
oh my gosh,
most amazing things.
Oh,
the taxi driver that he drinks a potion and he goes, "Oh, that's strange. It tastes like." and he falls off camera. Oh god, sorry. Yeah, derail as fuck, but everyone needs to look up those endings.
Yeah, this is great. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna watch the rest of this. There's 19 minutes of it here. This is
man.
That's gonna be awesome.
I'll try to remember to link that. David, you were gonna bring up something when we were talking about just Twisted Metal.
I don't remember.
You don't remember? Okay. The whole time I'm like, fuck, what was he gonna say?
Yeah, it wasn't.
And it's gone.
I would have remembered.
You had ideas and it's gone.
Yeah, that's how that works.
Like I cannot I cannot separate Twisted Metal 2 from Pretty Hate Machine from Nails in my head. Like it was just every day. It was just like listening to that
synonymous
album, playing Twisted Metal with my friends. And those are some good times. Resident Evil 1 and stuff like that. Like those old PlayStation 1 days. Those were good times. Well,
different time.
Yeah, different times.
Simpler times.
Simpler times. You could say better times. I don't know. Like it's always hard to say. Like what times are better. Every times are, there's always good and bad things about every time.
I like now.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people get caught up in,
And the days.
the good old days and
Yeah.
memories, and it's like, and a lot of people are like, this is the worst time to live. It's like, no, it's always
Yeah.
the worst time to
It's
live,
always the worst time
friend.
to live.
So it's
Yeah,
best
yeah.
and the worst, honestly.
Yeah.
Well, on the topic of now, what do you guys like about now? Whether it's music or games or just in general.
Why don't you go first, David?
Fucking, I don't know, technology.
Yeah.
Everything around that.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
The fact that we can do this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Our fucking phones are like an extensions of our bodies, and all the games are absolutely amazing, and it's, everything is so. I don't know, man. It is the best time.
Everything
my
is so
opinion.
far past what I thought it was going to be when I was a kid, but in like the best way possible in terms of like digital mediums that
Yeah.
like every time that I find a reason to bitch about it, I immediately just kind of go like, why would you?
Right.
Like,
Oh, you don't miss that AOL dial-up tone?
yeah, exactly. Holy shit. And like if my parents picked up the phone
Pick
to
up the
call
phone!
someone while I'm right in the middle of
A
CS,
Quake 2
Counter-Strike.
match or something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh god, well, all right, I'll try and get back on in 5 minutes. Did any of y'all have Net Zero by any chance?
I
Oh, yeah.
did. Yeah.
Oof, Lord,
Brutal.
That's like if the internet had a physical manifestation of CBT, that's it,
Yeah.
We got through it.
And
man.
this
We did really well.
podcast is demonetized after that.
Kids don't know, man. Kids don't know. Like they're born into HD gaming and
God damn.
and high speed internet. And
So cool. Like imagine not having to ever experience dial-up. Like that must be really
But
nice.
it makes you appreciate it though, right?
Yeah.
Like
Oh, it does.
Absolutely.
It does. But,
It does.
but at the same time, like because they grew up with a certain speed of internet, then whenever they get older, they'll be like, no, it seems to be faster. The fuck you talking
Sure.
about? So it'll just get better as time goes
Yeah.
on.
Did you ever have to like carry your entire PC to your friend's house so you can
Yeah.
fucking have a LAN party together? Play
Oh,
the same
bro,
game?
you're talking to a bunch of guys who go to QuakeCon. They still do that. They
Yeah.
still do that.
Yeah, were you like 11 years old?
Yeah, I remember that. I put mine in a wagon one time to go over to a friend's house, like one of those radio flyers.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah.
I think I mentioned this once on the podcast before, but like one of my best memories ever was 2005. I had an apartment and I had 9 friends come over with their PCs, and we all set up Unreal Tournament 2004. And we played a 9 versus 9 humans versus bots match on Bombing Run, and put them on the godlike AI difficulty. And we went 45 minutes without us or the bots scoring a goal. It was the most intense
my God.
thing ever. We're all like yelling at each other, like they're headed up this way. Hey, you got him on the sniper, or got him. And then finally, like one person gets a goal after an hour, and it's just like such a glorious moment. And like I love that we have the internet connections that we have today, and the technology that we have today. But those are just moments that like. You don't see people having 16 people at their houses to get together and
Right.
play multiplayer
Right.
games. It just doesn't happen anymore. And
Yeah.
there's something, you lose some of that magic when you're just sitting
There's-
on
yeah,
in
there's
in your underwear, online.
Yeah, it's the physical world.
Physical connection.
You build memories. Yeah, the
Yeah.
connection. Yeah, like I shouldn't remember this because like it wasn't like a close friend of mine, and it wasn't like my gear. But like when you brought up LANs, David, one of my like strongest memories of like empathy, like feeling someone suffer like in pain, right, was at a LAN party, right? And I still remember it to this day. It was like a movie scene when someone just goes in slow motion, like what happened was, this is going back almost 15 years ago now, like CRT monitors were still a bit of a thing, LCD screens are only just LED screens are only just coming in.
Yeah.
And this guy, I went to this big LAN party, and this guy that was much older than me, he was probably like, I'm 15, he's like 35 or something at the time, so that's older when you're a kid. And he's like, he came walking in with his CRT monitor and he had sandals on, like flip-flops on his feet.
Oh,
And
I already know where this is going.
As he's carrying the CRT monitor, he's like 2 steps away from his desk. The sandal rolls under his foot, like he sandwiches the sandal.
Oh shit!
Loses traction and just goes flying forwards. And he was a big bloke, like he was like, you know, he was a supersized bloke, right? So yeah. So his inertia with tripping went forward, and I just heard the monitor just go crunch, glass everywhere, and then he landed on it and pancaked it. And that was it. That was a land on for him.
Oh no!
Poor guy.
But like, it's like, I don't know. Like we all banded together and like we went out and got him like a new monitor and shit
That's
like that.
nice.
Like it was like a team effort after it. But like, I don't know. Like I remember that 15 years on. I don't sort of remember most of my like online interactions with games and groups as much as like my LANs. You know?
Yeah, totally.
That's why I hope we get. I hope this year we get a QuakeCon back. I hope that it's all, you know, everything works out to where it's,
definitely.
I think it will.
good to do. I think it will too. Like the way things are looking right now,
Yeah.
but you know, you never know these days. But hopefully, because like, man, I fucking miss that. That's where I met like you, Spud, and I met you, Ketchup. Like I mean, like, God, that's my favorite. My favorite.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
That hotel is pretty rad. And for me, coming from Australia, and then I got the privilege to go there twice. Like that place, I was like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, because there's no fucking hotels like that in this country. Like I went there and I was like, I remember saying to Joshua from Bethesda, it's just like, man, I have won a golden ticket. Like I come here, like, because if no one knows, like explaining like the Gaylord Hotel where they host it, like. It's massive, man. It's almost like
It's huge. It's like a
you look at
giant
the glass
resort.
ceiling, and it's like it almost looks like that. Like you're looking out of Elysium from that movie, like that Halo looking thing. Like
Yeah.
it's just crazy, man.
Oh,
But
speaking
yeah,
of, hats off to Josh. He's awesome. He helped us through all the through a bunch of that PR stuff through the tag 1 and tag 2.
Yeah,
I love
he's a
Josh.
good
He's
guy.
awesome.
He's a
Known
machine.
him for a long time, thanks to
Yeah.
Doom 2016. But here's the crazy thing though about, you know, the I think it's the Gaylord Texan, I think it is, the resort.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Dallas.
Like, I've been to Texas now, I think at least 4 times, I think. And because I've only ever been in that resort for the event, I haven't been to Texas, really. I haven't seen anything outside of that resort apart from the
Oh, I need to
airport
change
and the
that
road.
next time you're here.
I've never ever actually seen Texas at all, apart from maybe a Whataburger I went to once.
We'll go to
a good place to
downtown
start.
Dallas. Yeah, that is a good place to start. But we'll go to downtown Dallas. So we'll make a trip of it.
And then you guys come down to Austin.
Yeah.
There's a lot to see
plan.
here.
There is a lot to see down in Austin. It's really, really beautiful in certain areas too.
Yeah, by the
definitely
sounds of it.
I'd like to change, because it's like, you know, you man, before COVID, the amount of traveling that my brother and I were having to do around Europe and all across the States and all kinds of stuff, you spend so much time only ever seeing the airport, the taxi,
Yep.
and the hotel, the venue.
Where it feels
The-
like that's every city. Yeah.
Yeah, now we haven't been able to do it for a long time. It's kind of like, you know, when I next get the chance to go anywhere in the States, definitely plan on staying an extra couple of days and just seeing it and having a look around and not really taking the opportunity for granted as I think I did before, for sure. Because it was just every time. I always knew I was going to be back there again. So, yeah, we'll do it next time.
Well, you got to
Yeah,
see yourself
no.
like a touring band or whatever. Or a comedy act or something. You know what I mean? Like they all complain about that. Like people say, "Oh, you must be so awesome traveling the world and getting to see the world." And it's like, no, we go to a hotel, we drive to the stage, the theater, we get on the stage, we go to the hotel,
We get
in
drunk.
the airport. yeah.
The asphalt, the sky, and the drinks all look the same.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
they do. Although there was one memory where that bar we all went to for, it was like, it wasn't an after party. It was just like a
Oh,
Bethesda-
the lightning storm.
a lightning storm.
Dude.
When we're on the
Fucking
waterfront
hell.
and you just look in the distance and there's lightning. I'd never seen shit like that.
Oh, the glass cactus.
Yeah, man.
Oh,
That's
Yeah,
sick.
yeah. That was cool. Whenever like we just got that big lightning storm right then and there.
and it was always miles
Yeah.
away. So you didn't feel like you were gonna die.
That was where I got to apologize to Todd Howard 3 years after I almost spilled a whiskey on him at an after party.
You apologize for almost spilling a whiskey 3
Yeah, I
years
was like-
later?
I was like, hey Todd, you may not remember this. I was like, but you know, I was like, my name's Andrew. Let me start off. You know, thank you for inviting me here. It's like, I'm sorry for almost spilling whiskey drunkenly on you at a Bethesda after party in 2014. He was like, I don't remember that, but I appreciate you coming up, and it's all good, dude. No worries. And like,
been
just give me
funny
a pat
if you
on the
remembered
back,
it.
and yeah.
Oh no!
It was like it's about fucking time.
He's just like, who let you in? Get the fuck out.
Get out.
Yeah.
The problem is that very same night, I almost made him miss his shuttle. So we just,
Really?
I saw him and I wanted to get a picture with him and that. And then while I was taking the picture, people behind like, well, we gotta go. The shuttle's now. And I'm like, oh shit, sorry.
Yeah. Oh my god.
I always made him miss his shuttle. So like the cycle just continued. One apology happens and then the annoyance picks up somewhere else.
Oh Lord.
Sorry, Todd. I love you, man. I love you. Thanks for taking a picture with me.
Yeah, we love you, Todd. But yeah,
To the future.
to the future. Cheers.
Yes.
We got a little bit of
Wild
coffee
Cheers.
left.
Hold on. There.
I've got a
Cheers.
smallest amount of tea left in this cup, but I'm going to try not to let the tea bag hit me in the face.
That was prime placement for a joke there that I didn't take because it felt like low-hanging fruit.
Low-hanging
Hey,
fruit
man.
sometimes tastes the best.
That's what my brother and I do nothing but relentlessly teabag when we get invaded. And no break.
Totally.
Great. My build is even more my god, this is derailed to fuck, but I've had a good time. It's been a good
Yeah, hey, that's all that matters.
This has
That
been
translates to the listener, so it's all good.
Yeah, man. But it's been a fun episode, Mayo and Spud. I mean, like,
Yeah.
we haven't done one of these in a while since the end of last year. I know we mentioned that having it really focused on Doom and almost only Doom. I know we always derail it in some way, but
More and more every time, which is what I think has led to the eventual end.
We're kind of just sitting here like, well, to be fair, I mean, we always talk about a lot of things that
Yeah.
maybe, be worth, because it's like I said, it's conversation for another time, absolutely, but we have had stuff like the release of Shadow Warrior 3, which has
Oh
had...
God, we haven't even talked about Shadow Warrior 3.
Yeah, but we'll save that for if we do it again. The whole thing is like, there's so much for us to all talk about, I think, and go over. Like, Shadow Warrior 3, for example, which apparently wasn't doing amazingly well with user reviews, but among the, retro and high-paced FPS crowd really love it. So there's a real, comparison there between the average everyday player and those that really deep dive into an FPS's mechanics are clearly very different things. There's a lot of discussion there. God knows what else is coming out, and plenty more conversations to be had. So it's been a fun show. And thank you very much, both David and Andrew, for joining us.
Yeah,
Oh,
thanks
you're
for
very
having us.
welcome. Thanks for having us. Yeah.
It's been really nice to see, like, when we announced in the last episode that we were bringing this to an end, there were a lot of people that were like, no, they didn't want us to end. And so it's like, and you know what? I mean, Ketchup, like, it kind of brings back memories of the KTP podcast on the Combat Tomb podcast. It was the official Mortal Kombat podcast
Before everyone was doing podcasts, really.
for like 3 or 4 years or something they went on, and so I know what it's like to have, to start to relate to personalities that you listen to on a podcast and then hear that they're leaving, and so I would like to continue with you guys in some kind of way, and I don't know. Well, we can do something like Shadow Warrior or whatever we want to talk about. It just won't be the Unofficial Doom Eternal Podcast. It'll be another form, and we can bring on some people from other worlds and just kind of play it by ear, I guess.
No, you have to do Doom until you're dead.
Oh my!
I kind of agree with that. You committed to it, and you got
Doom is eternal after all.
Every
go.
time I talk about what I think about another game, there's always some prick. You should stick to Doom. You should stick to Doom. Everything else you say about every other game is fucking bullshit. I'm like, all right, buddy. Sorry. Sorry, I'm not crazy about Dying Light or whatever.
Yeah.
All right, but
no, yeah, you should absolutely just venture out, see what you like, do what you love. That's what matters. That's what translates.
Well, I love these
Follow
two
your
guys,
heart.
so I'm happy to keep doing stuff with them.
Good people, and hopefully I get to see you at a QuakeCon whenever it's coming back around.
Yeah.
You should swing by. We should all just hang out.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a great final episode of the Ketchup, Mayo, and Spud of Unofficial Doom Eternal Podcast. We want to thank our very special guests. We tried to get you on like a year ago, right? Like you and me, Andrew, we talked like a year ago. Like, hey, we got to get you on.
I think that was like right around like the time that we were doing like all the press tour stuff, and we still had a ton of stuff that we had to do behind the scenes. But I'm glad we finally got to do it.
Hell yeah,
Dude, it's been almost a year, huh?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wait, it's almost to the day actually.
Very close.
It was mid-March when the game came out, wasn't it?
March 20th. It was on the anniversary, wasn't it?
That's right.
Oh my god, it's still 2020 to me.
That's fucked up.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah, it still feels like 2020.
Anyways,
I'll feel like it's not 2020 when I can go downtown and watch like local bands play shows normally and shit like that.
I feel like that's starting to happen in Dallas.
It's happening already.
Yeah.
It's happening here.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah. And like whenever I'm one of those guys that I'm like, I'm gonna look at the numbers before I go do anything just to see what the risk is. Just common sense shit.
Yeah.
And like Dallas has been great within the last like month or so. So I've been like, all right, right on. Yeah.
Same here.
Does anyone want to mention anything, pitch anything before we wrap this up?
Go play Doom Eternal.
Yeah, go play Doom Eternal.
And listen to the soundtracks
Yeah,
and enjoy them.
the DLCs.
Yeah. There's no bias there. Play the DLC.
Not at all. There's a lot of hard work.
Yeah, that's true.
Nothing my end, Mayo. It's all the same here,
Oh, here I'll plug. Go check out the Medieval DLC.
Oh, okay.
The Black Labyrinth.
Is that out now?
That's, go wishlist it on Steam.
Okay.
Not out yet. We're still working on it, but coming along really well. I think people will be excited about that.
Will there be a soundtrack?
There won't. It'll just be me saying in the background on a loop, this is the soundtrack to a Medieval The Black Labyrinth DLC.
Make that a secret track. Make that a
With
secret track,
reverb
please.
playing behind it. Yeah, I bet I could convince Leon and Simon to do that.
Put it on.
with your own.
Put it backwards.
Yeah.
Human gun sounds. That's what you need to record. You need to record.
Pew 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 pew.
Pew, pew, pew. Yeah.
Spud, you got anything coming up?
Maybe an OnlyFans. That's about it.
Right.
Hell yeah.
I'm doing me thing. I got a love affair for that Cycle Frontier game I mentioned in one of the podcasts before.
Yeah.
So I'll be streaming and covering that. Still doing the odd Doom mod on my Twitch streams. But that's my next venture, man. That comes out. The beta's March 16th, and I'm just just going deep in it, no life in it. So very excited.
Yeah.
That's about it. The Spud Hunter at twitch.youtube.slash.net.au.
Okay. Don't type.
Buddy's awesome. You should absolutely go check him out. That's good content.
Yes, content. Cheers, Andrew. Appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah, and thank you, Ketchup, for introducing me to Spud here. Spud, you've been a really cool guy to get to know. I reached out to Ketchup to start this podcast. I'm like, who the fuck else could we talk to? I didn't know anybody. And so Ketchup hooked us up. And it's been a pretty cool dynamic.
I think everyone, it's like just I guess a good way to finish off this podcast is just to show the power of the id Software family, like all the games and the history behind them. Like we're all interconnected, like in a weird way. Like before Doom and Doom Eternal was it was sort of like Quake was my thing. That's what I built my stream and the stuff I do online around, and that's how I cross paths with Ketchup. That's how I sort of built my thing up, and then got heavily into doing Doom runs, and then I met all you guys. You know what I mean? So I guess it would be the same for Andrew's story. Very much so with Doom and Quake. I mean, you ended up getting tracks into Quake Champions, and then into Eternal. It's it's all one interconnected family on
Big
a
family
journey.
for sure.
And then the adopted stepchild, me.
The
That's it. That's how
stepchild.
inclusive we are. We don't
the family.
we trace them all. No, I appreciate you guys, and this podcast has been awesome. All of them, and this one in particular, has been good fun.
Cool, guys. Thank you. It was awesome.
All right. Well, I guess that does it for the our last episode of the Doom Eternal podcast. It's been a great 2 years almost. And we love all you guys. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you to our guests. We will be back eventually with something interesting, we hope. And so everybody say goodbye. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Ciao.